Hello, world. My name is Tim Ruswick, and welcome to Game Dev Underground. We have a special guest today, BlackThornProd. Why don't you say hi?
Hey guys, great to be here. Thanks, Tim, for having me, man.
No problem. I'm excited for this because Blackthorn is gonna help us out with a bunch of Unity tips. We're gonna talk about how he went from basically not knowing anything about Unity to being an expert in the industry, sharing his knowledge, helping people out across the world, and getting thousands of views on every single devlog for his game. That sounds
Yeah,
exciting.
sounds awesome. Sounds really good.
All right, so I want to start. I want to hear everybody's got an origin story, right? All the superheroes in the world, they all start with something, and I want to hear where Blackthorn Prod started.
Sure. So I started not too long ago, really. It's been, I would say I started when I was 15, so about 4 years ago. I opened up, I was really into making 3D animated movies at first. So I really wanted to work in a company like Pixar or DreamWorks. And so my dad, he got me a software called Autodesk Maya. Well, he showed me a cool software called Maya, which basically enabled me to make 3D models, animations. And so I was really hooked into that for about 1 year, trying to make mini movies and stuff. But I quickly realized that I didn't really like watching movies, these type of 3D animated movies. It wasn't my main passion, but I was completely in love with games. And I didn't think at the time that I could make games all on my own, especially with like hardly any money, until I discovered, of course, Constructs 2, which is an amazing little 2D, basically a game making tool
I know that tool
that
very
enabled.
well.
Yeah, I know you use it, right? You
Yeah,
created your whole game with it.
yeah.
But yeah, I discovered that, and I was just completely amazed that I could, all alone with no budget, create games, create small 2D games. So yeah, I kind of dropped anything to do with the movies, and from then on, I was full on game dev. So yeah, when I was 15, I made my very first game. It was basically like a Space Invader clone type of game. Really not original. The art was horrible because I was using my mouse. Um, and yeah, so I was really happy with that. Plus, I liked Constructs 2 because you didn't need to know how to program or anything. It was a pure type of drag and drop interface, which was very simple, really, really nice for me to just yeah, get my bearings and stuff.
So
And yeah,
would you say that like the thinking games were so complicated stopped you from getting into it, or it just didn't even cross your mind to make games?
yeah, I don't think it even crossed my mind really until I was 15. At first, I was making quite a few games, but just on paper, just basic board games. I thought that was all I could do. I thought it was way too complex. Really did. I really thought it was impossible to make it all alone, without lots of money, without knowing how to program, like be a crazy programmer, which is obviously not at all true. Nowadays, you can really be a lone developer of any age and start making games.
I
So yeah, I
think you've
think it was
proved that.
the yeah. So it was really just the fact of thinking it was impossible. I didn't think it was possible. Yeah, that's about it.
So how do we go from Construct 2 to Unity? Because I know in my stream all the time, everybody, there's a running joke. It's why not Unity? That's the question. Why not Unity? Why not
Um,
Unity? So why
so
Unity? I get to ask you that.
so the main reason why I transitioned from Constructs 2 to Unity initially was because at the time I really wanted to make 3D games, and Construct 2, it could only make 2D games. So I did some research. I tried to find game making tools that would enable me to do that, and obviously I came across Unity, and yeah, it was far far from love at first sight. I really didn't like Unity at first. I hated it because I needed to know how to program to make a game. I needed to know how to program either in C sharp or JavaScript or Python. I think at the time there was Python also. And yeah, I was really scared of programming. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I enjoyed making art, making stories, but yeah, programming sounded like something very alien and scary. So I spent about maybe a few weeks in Unity, really watching loads of tutorials, but not getting very far. And I think after that, I sort of quit game dev for a little time again, and mostly just drew in Photoshop. So yeah, Unity
Unity
has changed
made you quit game dev.
exactly for a
That's the
time.
title right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, for a time, I must say Unity just shocked me. I said, yeah, maybe game dev isn't for me after all.
Wow.
I'm an artist type guy. I don't want to program. Yeah, I'm just gonna go back to drawing and making little movies. But obviously, I changed my mind soon after.
So what changed your mind? Why'd you come back?
So I came back. I'm not even can't really remember why. Oh yeah, of course. It's because my brother, Liam, who's actually 2 years younger than me, um, but he was doing a lot of web development. He was really into that at the time. He really loved making websites and coding them out and stuff. And so, yeah, he was pretty good at coding and he really enjoyed it. So I went up to him and I said, why don't we make a game together? I can do all the art and draw stuff and that. And you can help me with the programming in Unity. So he said, definitely, yeah. And he began learning how to code in C# with Unity. And I believe it was during our Halloween vacation that we sat down together and we made our very first Unity game. It was a little 3D game called Midnight Fire, and man, it was just such fun. Making it was excellent, and since then I've not turned back. I've really just been making games since then because I love the experience so much. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it was really thanks to Liam basically that I got back into game dev, into Unity because yeah, he was a programmer, I was an artist. We really complemented each other really well, and so yeah, we brought that game to life in about 2 weeks. Tons of fun.
That's awesome. And so do you guys still do games together, or do you do a lot of solo stuff now, or?
So we made that our very first game together, so Midnight Five. Then we made another game together called Color Shooter. So we were really on a good roll. We were gaining a lot of confidence. We were saying, "Man, we're going to make a fortune together." But after we made, that big mistake that I think all developers make at some point is dreaming up a way too ambitious idea. I think for our third game project that we wanted to make, it was something multiplayer, a kind of like a multiplayer top-down shooter game
Oh
with
wow.
loads of levels, tons of monsters. I drew lots of concept art for it and stuff, but it was way too complex. Though Liam was really good at coding, for like the short amount of time he had even tried, like trying multiplayer was way too ambitious. So that kind of was a big blow to our confidence, and we started, like yeah, our motivation just really went down at that point, and Liam kind of drifted a bit away from game dev again. So I began making games on my own, but that's another story. But basically, what we do now, me and Liam, is Udemy courses. We got back together a few months ago to work on another project, and yeah, we've made two Udemy courses since then, where we both show how to make a complete game from scratch. So yeah, that was a lot of fun getting back with Liam and making something.
That's awesome. So I've seen these around. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the games in the courses? Like what kind of games do you make and like how long are they
Oh
and all
yeah,
that stuff?
sure. So our first course that we launched in November was how to make a top-down shooter game from scratch. So basically, it's a 5-hour course, tons of fun to create. We just enjoyed the experience so much. But yeah, Liam basically shows how he teaches all the programming side of things. How to code enemy AI, weapon switching, all that stuff. And I'm just showing them how to create the animations, paint the characters. So yeah, again, we're really complementing each other. He's
Yeah.
just focusing on the programming, and I'm focusing on what I like doing most, which is creating art and animations and stuff. And so our second course, which we launched in February, that's a course really aimed at beginners, complete beginners. The first one was more for intermediate beginners, and this is like really for those who have never touched Unity before, and they were really teaching them, from A to Z how to make their very first game. So we're teaching the fundamentals of the C# programming language, and I'm showing them the basics of game art, all that cool stuff.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
I'm all about like my whole channel is build, finish, and launch better games. I'm trying to help more people make more games, and I think you guys are running along the path of that mission. And I think that's why our missions are aligned here because I think we're both
sure.
helping people make
Uh,
games.
Definitely, yeah. As you said, I'm BlackThornProd. There's a lot of more technical uh, tutorials and videos on game dev. So me and my brother, we like making videos on how to program and how to create game art and stuff. Whereas you've got a lot of great videos on more like the kind of motivation side of game dev and how to stay motivated or how to market your game. So we're kind of on the same topic, game dev, but we're both covering different things, which is really neat.
Yeah, what was interesting to me is you were saying you watch my videos. I never had any idea of that because I've watched a couple of your tutorial videos and learned from those. So
Awesome.
like without ever talking, we were like watching each other's videos and like
It is funny
learning.
that, yeah, it is really, but I've really been following you for more than a year, and yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
as I said, it has been so great just like following you on your journey. I kind of relate a bit to what you're living with what I'm living right now. So yeah, I really hope that we'll both end up launching a really great indie game and continue following each other.
I think we will one day.
I think we will. Yeah, I think we
So
will.
at some point we have to if we keep at it.
Sure. No, of course. I
Um,
mean, we're both super young. We can do it for sure.
all right, so you said mistake number one was like over scoping a massive project, but so you've created
Exactly.
a bunch of games. You now create courses to help other people make games. Can you
Yeah.
walk me through some of the crazy mistakes that you see happen? Some of the maybe the beginner mistakes or the no nos or the things that people do wrong that you
Oh,
see?
there's quite a lot that I've seen from other people, but that I've seen myself doing and my brother doing. So yeah, the first one obviously is like the really famous one. It's starting way too big, trying to make something that's too difficult for your skill level. So yeah, I really recommend that people try something very very small and gain confidence from finishing those small games because there's nothing worse than jumping in and you're trying to make your dream game and then either seeing that your dream game is not very good or that you just can't make it, which will be a huge blow to your confidence. So definitely for all beginners out there listening to this, start extremely small, and by doing so you're going to get that tough momentum, that motivation, and that confidence, which will lead you to making bigger and bigger projects. So yeah, keep your big ideas for later for sure.
Perfect. I
Next,
agree with that 100%.
yeah, it is really important. And as I said, we look what happened to us. We tried making a huge multiplayer game, stuck at it for about a month until we realized it was way too difficult, and that we had kind of wasted our time on doing that. Though it was a great lesson learned, but it was still 1 month of working on something that we would have never been able to finish. And so yeah, that just completely destroyed our 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 little team, our confidence at least,
Right.
making games.
It's I've had people argue with me on the aspect of like you should start something small. Like people say, "Oh no, you should start with the project that you want to make and the big thing." But like there's two schools of thought on it, right? Like there's the one like you can start on something massive and learn a ton. But I always approach it from like the human element, right? Like
Right.
it's if it's going to destroy your confidence, it doesn't matter if you can create something big or you can or where you get with that project. Like if it's going to destroy your confidence and your motivation, it's not worth it, right? Like
Definitely.
you
No,
got to
no,
understand
it's
you and be able to like realize that. And that's why it's not so much that if you've been programming for 20 years, could you start with something bigger than Pong? Probably, right?
yeah, probably.
And it's dependent on the person, but at the same time, like the reason why I tell that to people is always just like I want them to make as many games as possible and I want them to keep going as long as possible. And
Yeah.
if they start with something a little out of their scope, it can be damaging mentally, right?
Oh, it really can. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just great also for just finishing projects and bit by bit building out that portfolio of games. It feels great, and it's also a cool way to have fun. Because of course you don't need to. I mean, also I really recommend that developers work on games that they know they're going to have fun making. I think that's my second really big tip is that you've not to make games that you think others are going to like, but yeah, that you know that you're going to enjoy making. And so there's a tons of small games that you can make, really small ones, that I'm sure you'll have a lot of joy creating and learning from. So yeah,
Do you have any idea on how to find those? Like how do you start? Do you just like come up with a bunch of random ideas or
that is a good question. Quite tough to. Well, I think usually the games I really enjoy making. are the ones with a story that I can relate to. Kind of games that tell a story. I love telling games that tell a story that I can relate to or that I'm kind of living right now. Those are usually the projects I enjoy creating, or type of games that I've never made before. Like I've made a lot of top-down shooter games, and I feel like with each top-down shooter that I make, I'm enjoying making it less and less.
Yeah.
Whereas if I, there for example, I'm working on a puzzle platformer game, and I'm really kind of enjoying the process right now because it's a type of game that I've never made before. So it's really kind of comfort zone breaking, and it's everything feels new and fresh, and I'm discovering new things. So yeah,
You're picking almost entirely on like what you find interesting and fun.
exactly, yeah, and
Okay.
yeah, that's it basically. I don't have any concrete tips on finding games that you'll enjoy making. It's pretty tough. Obviously, prototype fast, like just take some square circles, really basic art assets, and just try coding it quickly and see if the game project is something you think you'll enjoy working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, really don't start working on beautiful art and figuring out the perfect, most optimized code. Just slam a game together in a few days, see if it's something you think you're gonna have fun working on and that you want to expand on, and from there do it or not.
I agree 100%. And I asked you that question. It's funny because people ask me like, what are your tips, Tim, for coming up with game idea? I have no idea how I make games. I just sit down and then I just start trying stuff and then we see what works. So I figured I would ask you to see if you had a different process.
Nope, I'm as clueless as you.
Yeah.
The ideas just seem to come to me, maybe in my thing,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's not an exact science.
You got to sit down and try a bunch of stuff until you like something and then you go with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, for sure. No, really, before I actually start a game project and decide I'm going to finish this one, I most of the time throw away at least five game prototypes, 3 or 5 game prototypes that I know I'm not going to have fun making or that isn't good. Like
Yeah.
Just for example, during the Ludum Dare 42 in during last summer there, before I actually made my game Evolution, I believe I started and stopped almost as quickly 3 little prototypes.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really important just to come up with loads of ideas, just try them out as quick as possible, and if it's not feeling right, then just walk away before it's too late.
Yeah.
And
No, I've done stuff similar. I think I don't like create different prototypes. I just kind of like morph mine into a bunch of different stuff sometimes. So like in game
right,
jams, I'll make something, but then it won't work. So I'll like just make it into something else. And every once in a while I have to start over. Most of the time it's just kind of like an evolution process of adding and taking stuff away until it's
yeah,
like
no, yeah,
working.
yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. Basically, I think that's kind of more or less what I meant. Also, it's true that at one point, for example, during Let 'em Dare 42, I made this game where a little character is walking around a planet. But then I said I don't like the feeling of controlling a character walking around a planet. So instead, I'm just going to have the player control the planet. So it kind of morphed into that,
Yeah.
But there's still a common idea in those 2 games.
Do you find that when you're in that creative process that you limit yourself sometimes? Like you stop an idea before it comes to fruition, or do you just kind of let everything flow?
I always have in the back of my mind, whether I technically, finish this, especially during game jams. I say to myself, is this idea, can I really finish this sort of game in like 48 hours or stuff? So I do have that sort of thoughts in the back of my mind. There are a few limits, but I think those limits are good creatively, really. Sometimes I get into a creative block when I have, too many possibilities and there's
Yeah.
no limitations. So yeah, I do quite enjoy having limitations, having a theme to respect or a time limit to have. That sort of, yeah, it's funny. It just, it helps me really a lot.
So as far as like game jams go, you got 48 hours, you got a theme. Do you put other creative restraints on yourself, or is that kind of it?
Usually not. Let me think. I don't think so really. I think I try and come up with the best idea I can with that theme, with that time constraint. Really, that time constraint and that theme is enough for me. I don't say to myself going in, I want to make a puzzle game or I want to make a strategy game. I kind of just see what comes out, what sounds the best.
It's funny you mentioned that because the the games that I've ended up creating where I don't have any predisposed ideas of what I want to create. The theme comes out. I think the theme sucks because I always think the theme sucks. And
Yeah, I
I
think
get
everybody
angry
does.
and I talk to chat about it because I'm usually live streaming. And then I start to think, I'm like, okay, how can I make this happen? This theme is dumb, it's stupid, and I hate it, and it's gonna make a dumb game, but I'm gonna make a dumb game anyway. And then I start working, start making it happen. People start giving me ideas, and then I usually end up with something hilarious or amazing or
Yeah,
something
I
I
saw.
just love.
Yeah. And I've played most of your game jam games. I think like
Thank you,
there's space goats and there's chick magnets, and those games are really hilarious. They really are,
thank
and
you.
you could see your theirs are just the products of like a very short period of time, but that you put like a lot of passion into it. That you enjoyed creating these games, and I think that yeah, it shows itself in those projects.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting though is because I always thought for a long time I wanted to do a game where like I would go into a game jam and say I want to make this type of game, right? And I did this for the Timdred jam, the jam that we just put on with
Oh
the
right, yeah,
Kindred Games community. And Kindred is a amazing artist, and I was so excited to work with him because it was going to be awesome, and we were going to make the best game ever. And we both decided we were going to make a sci-fi game, right, ahead of
yeah.
time before the theme was out. And then we let everybody
Okay.
vote on the theme, and we worked on the game, and the game came out looking beautiful. It just happens to suck. The game
Well,
sucks.
yeah.
And I was just like, I just realized that like doing all that, one, we overscoped still. 25 games in, it's still possible to overscope, right?
Of course, yeah.
Which was a crazy lesson to me. Like I figured I learned that lesson already, but apparently not. But two, like going in with some predisposed ideas or pre things that you want to do sometimes can give you like that tunnel vision of like
True.
it's you're not going with the creative state, you're not going with the creative flow, you're not following the best game idea down, you're kind of just putting your foot in the sand and saying I want to do this thing, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's just I found that the best games that I end up making are the games that just follow the good ideas no matter where they go, even if I think they're stupid.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Of course.
You found something similar?
I think so too. I think that's when I just kind of go with my intuition. Really, when I just go with like kind of go with the flow, and work on projects that I think are going to be fun or that I'm passionate about. Those turn out to be the best. Really. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to ask you because I saw one of your games, Escaping Hearts.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sure.
I really, really, really like that game because I was mid Philophobia development. That game
I
had a hearts
know.
in it, and I was like, I really,
Yeah.
really, really liked it. So that's a really simple mechanic,
It is. Yeah. And
but it's
yeah.
really cool.
It is interesting, and that came really just by a lot of prototyping and testing out different things. And at first, it was much more complex than that. There was actually four hearts. There weren't even hearts actually. It was two hearts, and there was two weapons that you kind of moved about. But then I realized like manipulating four things at the same time was way too
Yeah.
complex for the player, so I just cut it down to two hearts. And I thought yeah, that's amazing. It goes really well. Like I can build a type of love story around this. They need to stay connected together and stuff, and they're moving about these levels. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to make.
So
And
there's a lot of elements in there though, because for first of all, you have a wonderful video on your channel that explains the whole development. I recommend people watch that. Um, but
excellent.
so first, you one of the things you did as a designer that I thought was really interesting is you reduced the complexity.
Yeah.
A lot of people, especially when they're new to game dev, they think
Oh yeah.
increasing the complexity is a
Oh
better idea,
man.
right? It's not
Sure.
complex enough. It needs more stuff. It needs more features. It needs all this. But I think the beautiful thing about that game is that you made it simpler and that made it better. You took stuff away and that made it
Oh yeah.
better, right?
I completely agree with you, and I am so guilty of that, of making my games way too complex. When I started out, like my first year of game dev, if you play through the games, you'll see that first of all they're super complex, and second of all the rules are explained in the worst way possible, and that is with a brick of text
A
right at the
giant
start.
text box.
That is the worst. That is just the worst. I mean, nobody in their right mind would read through that text. And of course, being 16 and stuff, the text often had grammar mistakes.
Yeah.
It was just really amateur. So yeah, definitely for all beginning devs, it's so important to keep your game simple and not need to explain it with a brick of text, or just keep things really simple, straightforward, and those normally turn out the best.
I do Feedback Friday streams where I give feedback on indie games live on my Twitch channel.
Yeah, I know, sure.
And it's funny because everyone will always yell at me. They'll be like, "Tim, you didn't read the text." And I'm like, "Yeah, I did. Nobody's going to read it. So if you want legit feedback, I need to do this without reading the text. Like that big wall that you hit me with, nobody's going to read that. Nobody."
Of course. I mean, you could obviously teach the rules with some text, but not a brick of text. It has to be like kind of interactive with little maybe a bubble popping out, and then you have to do a certain action, and then another command will pop up on screen. So that's cool.
Yeah,
but
bite-sized information for sure. At the very least.
And putting that information into practice, forcing the player to use that new information. So like you teach the controls, you say move your character with the arrow keys, and then you wait till the character moves with the arrow keys before popping up a new command.
Yeah. No, and
obviously doing that in a game jam though might take some time, and you don't have much time. So normally people just they resort to that brick of text because it takes them 10 minutes to make.
I mean, but if you can always make a game that's simple enough to pick up like that too. I mean, a lot of times the bad tutorials with the bricks of text are usually explained away by like weird design choices, right?
Of course. For example, Escaping Hearts, like there's nothing to explain. I literally wrote one line of text, left click on the heart and to move it, and it's self-explanatory really. There's nothing else to teach.
It's pretty intuitive too, even if you don't read, because most of the thing people do on PC games is they'll click on something. Like that's the default thing to do, right?
Sure it is, yeah.
I find it interesting that like a lot of times designers they try and make things like controls are another big thing in Feedback Friday. People pick the weirdest buttons to control their character, and I don't understand why you wouldn't just use the arrow keys or use WASD. You know what I mean? Like you want to make things as intuitive and as easy as possible so that someone can pick it up potentially without reading.
Of course, I actually made a game at one point where the part of the difficulty, and it was completely silly, it was just like a platformer game, and I didn't even upload it because it was that bad, but it was a platformer game, and part of the difficulty, and I thought this was genius at the time, is that the controls were constantly changing on the keyboards.
Oh my God.
Constantly changing. So one minute W was to jump, and the next it was like R or T.
Oh no.
Just made for the worst game ever.
That sounds very frustrating.
Oh man, yeah. And as you were saying, you've been doing a lot of Feedback Friday. I've recently played 300 games from my second BlackThornProd game jam, which was a ton of fun. I just love hosting and participating in game jams.
Aren't they amazing?
They're so cool. I love them. But being the host of this one, I kind of made myself play every single one of these games, to thank the developers for taking part. And I came across all kinds of weird controls. And I have a European keyboard, so there's the 4 first letters are Azerty and not QWERTY. So most of the games had that WASD control scheme.
Right.
And for me that's terrible. I can't play when it's like that. So that was tricky.
So that's an interesting insight too then. So that was kind of like closed-minded, narrow-minded of me to assume that everyone should cater to my keyboard when there's large, massive populations of other keyboards. Now, game jam games are a little bit different, right? But I mean, so when you play games, do you prefer customizable controls or do you prefer...
I like customizable controls, or just if they let me, control my character with the arrow keys, that's completely fine with me too. So if there's, if there's WASD, but I can also use the arrow keys, that's completely fine. When it's only WASD though, I can't really play. That's annoying. So it's good to have customizable controls in that case.
So Philophobia shipped without customizable controls, but one of the things I did do is I made arrow keys and WASD work. I made W, up arrow, and space all jump. So that's perfect. That's fine. That's completely fine. I wanted to do that because some people like the arrow keys, some people don't, and keyboard issues like that are really, really good to take into account for sure.
Sure.
Playing 300 games from
a lot.
that is a task. I think I in the Gym Jam 2 that we did, I think there was like 250, and it took me a whole week to
Man,
play
yeah.
through. Like that was like a full-time job to play through all those games.
Oh yeah, I can completely relate. What I did basically was I played, I think, about 20 games every day. So I would play 10 little games in the morning, 10 games at night, and I would
Wow.
do that every day. Because for the first BlackThornProd game jam, I made the huge mistake of waiting right up until the last minute, and yeah, I was going mad at the end of the day, just playing these little games and saying, "Oh, this one's quite good. This one, oh no, this one's got another brick of text. No,
Yeah,
no,
no,
just go
not the
for it.
text.
Not another one."
Okay,
Um,
so are there any lessons you picked up from playing all those 300 games in a row?
So yeah, first of all, there's what we've said. Don't do brick of text. Keep the game simple. Keep the controls nice and intuitive or customizable and stuff. What else did I learn? Yeah, I learned that it's completely fine, to ship games and launch games to the world that aren't necessarily perfect or even good. Most of these 300 games, to be completely honest, are not that great. Obviously, they were made in a week, so it's normal. But what was great about what these developers did is that they weren't afraid, to still launch their game to the world and receive feedback.
Yeah.
And I know quite a few people who are really scared of failing or just failing and showing their game and getting criticism, and that stops them from making anything. So yeah, I think one of the big lessons in that I've been learning with game jams and just by making videos and stuff is that it's so much better than to try and fail than not try at all,
Yeah.
do nothing. That is super important.
I'm a big advocate of publishing too. Like, I know a lot of people. This was weird to me because, like, when I joined my first game jam, it was not in my brain that I wasn't gonna submit something. Like, it was always like, how do I submit something, no matter what, even if it's a broken, crazy mess. But
Yeah, me too.
there's a
Yeah.
large population of people that will join game jams, work on it for a little while, get frustrated, and then quit, and then never submit anything.
No, no, no. It's really important not to do that. It's so important just to give it your all and especially for game jams. I mean, people expect the game to not be good. I think the expectation is that the game isn't good in game jams, and so if the
Yeah,
game is good, that's really special.
it's
That's like
surprising.
wow,
It's like, whoa.
exactly. That is really surprising. I mean,
Yeah.
whenever I play a game jam game that is like not very buggy or that's remotely good, I'm like impressed, and I give that guy a 4 or 5 stars all the time. So yeah, don't be afraid to fail. Super important to know
Yeah,
that.
there's no downside to publishing. There's really not. Like,
There's
we're all
not
scared
no,
that somebody's gonna say something bad, or somebody's gonna hate it, or they're gonna judge us, or whatever. But really, nobody cares. Like, nobody
of
cares.
course,
Nobody cares
no,
on the
no.
internet. And especially if your game's next to 300 other games, like, it's not. Come on, it's not a big deal.
Exactly. It's really not a big deal,
Eh,
of course. And for
Versus what
you
you'll
though,
learn, like,
oh
as
yeah,
to get it done, to publish it, to actually go through that whole process of publishing is, why would you not?
it's massive. No, I completely agree with you. I mean, there's, as you said, there's no downside to just finishing your game and launching it to the world. You're just going to gain so much out of that experience for sure.
Totally. All right, I want to make a quick shift. So we talked about
Sure.
the origin story a little bit. We talked about your intro to Unity and all that. But I would like to talk about the YouTube channel a little bit. So
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
how do you go from somebody that doesn't even know games or doesn't even post on YouTube to uh, 90,000 subscribers, average of 10 to
Yeah.
20,000 views on every devlog that you put out in under 2 years? Like, a lot of game devs would kill for that kind of exposure.
Oh,
How'd you do it?
it's quite a lot. Yeah, it's basically I made games for a year. So I made Midnight Fire with my brother, and then he and excuse me and him, we stopped making games together for a little time. He kind of lost motivation a bit, and so I was making games on my own from then on. And so I made about 5, 7 games on my own, and I really enjoyed the process. I was learning a ton while doing so. But yeah, absolutely nobody except family and friends were playing my games. And so at the time, I didn't really mind. I didn't care too much because I still had my brother and my friends playing and telling me what they thought. But there did come a time where I was saying to myself, it would really be beneficial for me to improve as a developer too, to get more feedback, to get more of that exposure. And at the time also I was thinking, what am I going to do in the future? Do I really want to go to some college, to some game dev school, or do I just want to keep making games, full time, which I was enjoying so much? And I said, yeah, I want to continue making games full time, but to do that, especially to prove to my parents, I would need something a bit more concrete. And at the time, all I had was a few free web games, quite buggy, not that good. So in the summer of 2017, I decided, I'm going to start making YouTube videos where I'm going to teach others how to make games, and I'm also going to, show off the games I've created, sort of do little devlog videos and that. And so yes, that's how I really started. The reason I started was I wanted to build an audience and not, completely be drowned in the number, the thousands and thousands of games that come out every day. Plus, I knew by reading, this really famous quote of, teaching helps you learn. So I wanted to make tutorials to not only help others, but also help myself, because teaching, it is a really great way to get better at your craft.
Yeah, so we were talking about that the other day, but let's dive into that real quick.
Sure.
So a lot of people would say that, like, well, the whole trolls and haters anyway in the YouTube comment section would be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Why are you teaching this? You're not an expert, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, I watch GDC videos. Who do you think you are to actually make tutorials? But what you're saying is you've learned a lot of stuff by sharing your knowledge.
Oh, wow. A huge amount. Really, I think why I'm quite good today at making games is because I've been teaching others how to make games. It's amazing, because when I make a tutorial beforehand, I'm doing so much research and I'm testing out things and I'm building prototypes and all that. And so doing so is just enabling me to learn so much. I definitely I really recommend to beginners out there to learn something of a tutorial or the Unity forums, and then you'll put it into practice and then try and teach it. Either to someone of your family or even just to make a video out of it, and you're going to learn incredibly.
And it's interesting because, like, you, in order to teach something to somebody, you have to understand it. And you have to understand it at a different level, because they're going to ask questions or they're going to wonder, like, common things. Yeah. And so if you don't understand it, you're going to have problems teaching it. So it makes you, I think, internalize the information a little bit more in a little bit different way, almost. Like,
definitely. I feel like, so I started my YouTube channel and I made tutorials on stuff that I was very, very comfortable. So it was very beginner level stuff. But then I started receiving comments. So when I received my very first comments and subscribers, that was like a magic experience for me. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And these comments were really encouraging too. I was lucky to have very encouraging supporters right from the start who were saying, I love your tutorials, you're such a great teacher, and so on. And that really gave me a lot of confidence. And I think that sort of confidence helped me learn faster in a way. So, because people were saying to me, man, you're a great teacher. And so I began really feeling like a teacher, really feeling like an expert, even though I wasn't any expert. I wasn't a great teacher, but them telling me that really boosted my confidence, boosted my belief in myself. And so, I really think that helped a lot learning game dev. Well, so much more so than if I was not believing in myself or if I doubted all my abilities. I know I wouldn't have improved so fast.
Totally. And I think the mistake a lot of people make, especially with content creation, is that they assume that you have to be this PhD level rocket scientist, 20 years of experience person to make a tutorial or to teach somebody something. But the reality is you just got to be one step ahead of them.
Exactly.
You got to know like 5 things that they don't know, right? And then you can teach them.
Of course. That is so true. So true. You really don't need to be perfect. You don't need to wait on the perfect conditions or be perfect yourself to do what you want and to teach others. And it's really important to know that.
So I want to ask, from one creative person to another, was there a point in your channel where things took a downturn or things stalled or it wasn't working out or you doubted yourself or anything like that?
Oh yeah, many times. I don't think at any point I've really said to myself, I'm going to quit my YouTube channel. It never got that bad. But so I started my YouTube channel and I was still 17 years old. And so I still went to high school. and high school in France anyway, which is where I live, it just burned all my time. I would go to school at 8 o'clock in the morning and sometimes come back at like 5 or 6 at night, which left me with only a really few hours to create videos and games. And so I would use, those like 5, 6 hours I did have to just create videos and games, just keep doing it every night. And so I did kind of like get burnt out after a moment, which was, kind of hard. When you get burned out, you lose your motivation, you kind of lose your desire to do it, to do anything. So yeah, I would say that my main challenge for now has been losing motivation or getting burnt out by trying to make videos every week, because that was kind of the situation. I had school full time. I had to do all my homework, learn for exams, try and do some exercise, be with the family, and at the same time, I was trying to make games and upload at least 1 or 2 videos per week. So all that combined really, yeah, kind of burned me out. But I learned, and this is super important also, to take breaks. Sometimes it's really important just to take 1, 2 weeks off to take some distance from your channel, from your work, and come back refreshed. And I think in doing so, you're going to gain so much more time, and your content will be a lot better. Whereas if you just try and force yourself to make videos every single week, then yeah, you just lose your desire to do it, and you can really make your content will be less good.
I think it's like the hamster wheel effect, right? Like at some point when you're doing something for so long, you get in this like routine to where you're just doing the same thing over and over again. And creatively, that can get boring as shit.
Sure.
But on top of that, like it's also dangerous because then you're not reinventing yourself. You're not looking for new opportunities. You're not trying new things. You're just kind of in that like, let me pump out what the subscribers want mode, or all that. And I've been in and out of that. Do you have any tips for like doing that or pulling yourself into more creative, or would you just say take breaks?
So I think so my channel, first of all, was really mainly oriented towards tutorials. I was doing loads of tutorials on how to make game art, animation, programming, all that stuff, which I really enjoyed doing for a time. But then I sort of felt like, do I really want to do this all the time? And I realized that I really enjoyed making devlogs more, enjoying showing them how I made my own games, talking about my journey and stuff. So basically, I transitioned from more of a tutorial channel to what I am now, and I think that's more of a kind of devlog making off channel, which is what I enjoy doing a lot more. So yeah, I think it's really important to look at what you enjoy doing and do that. If you're forcing yourself to do something that you don't enjoy doing repetitively, then people will see that through your videos and they won't be as good for it.
Yeah. I mean, dude, so I did 365 videos in 365 days.
That's huge. Crazy.
There are long stretches though where I look dead.
Yeah.
I am yawning. I like don't look at the camera. I'm super low energy. I'm depressed. You could just tell this person does not want to be there, right?
Yeah.
And that's my views went down during that era, and no wonder. Like here's a dude that does not want to be here, doing it anyway. And I realized immediately that when like I took some time off, I went on a vacation. I just realized like, okay, my content is just getting bad. I'm in this hamster wheel mode. I'm just doing this over and over again. So I want to know YouTube journey.
Yeah.
First 3 months, how difficult was it to get going?
Super hard. So like with anything, it starts really slowly, with YouTube especially. So I started in the summer, so it was July, and I think I got my very first 100 subscribers after 3 months of really hard work.
3 months, 100 subscribers.
It was so difficult. So 3 months, and for those 3 months, I uploaded 2 to 3 videos every single week, which shows you that things are going to start really slowly. So if you're considering making your own YouTube channel, definitely don't get discouraged by the numbers initially. Right. It will start really slowly, like it did for me. And so I think after 5 months, I got my first 500 subscribers. So at the time, I really felt like I was shooting. I thought I was like shooting up to fame. I was like, wow, 500! This is so crazy. And I believe a month later, I had 1,000. So it was really like kind of an exponential curve. It was going faster,
Right.
which obviously was really motivating. But that initial period was very, very slow. But I didn't really mind at the time, and I think that was great. Not focusing on the numbers too much. I was just focusing on the fact that I enjoyed what I was doing a lot. So I really
Yeah.
loved making videos. I loved teaching because I felt that I was learning a lot myself by doing so. And those few comments that I did get, they were just so encouraging. It was the very first time I had a contact with the exterior world, other than family and friends. These were the very first people that knew about me, about BlackThornProd, and yeah, that felt great.
So I think you hit on something key there. Like a lot of people, I've even had people tell me like I tried YouTube and it didn't work for me. And I was like, how long did you try? And they're you almost always it's between 1 month and 3 months. That's how long they
Yeah,
try it, and the numbers just aren't there, right? And that's like that's 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 your mistake right there. You
yeah, of
stopped
course.
after that. That's not enough time. That's not enough time for anything.
That is really not enough. 1 to 3 months. Yeah, again, I only had 100 subscribers,
Yeah,
hardly any views. That's really the wrong way to start. You have to start your YouTube channel because you want to, because you enjoy doing it. If you're just going in for numbers and views and stuff, you're probably going to quit before you even get those because it's going to take a lot of time. Usually, it takes a lot of time.
totally.
Some channels obviously go viral very quickly, but that's really a rare, rare case. Most
That's
of
not a strategy. That's an event. You know.
exactly, yeah. And I imagine that's kind of the same thing for you, Tim, right?
Yeah.
Very slowly.
Very slowly. Well, you leapfrog past me. You were just like
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
were building, doing your thing, and then just like boom. I remember I saw your channel. I was like, I think I was at probably 20,000, and I
yeah,
saw you at like 10 or 15 or something like that. And I was like, oh, this channel's cool. That's
yeah.
interesting. I should have reached out to you then. I didn't though.
Oh well,
And
now,
yeah,
now we're there.
we're doing it now.
Yay.
And then yeah, and then I just like randomly came across it like a little while later. It was like 50,000. I was like, oh
What?
my god, what's going
Yeah,
on?
I
But
did go.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I did go up very, very fast. So in January of 2018, I had 1,000 subscribers, and then again, it was like an exponential curve. I just kept on going up. Like in 2 months later, I had 5,000, and then it just keep on multiplying itself, which does feel really great. Now it's going a bit slower again. Like I'm not doubling every few months,
Right.
uh, but I think that having this increase in subscribers, it's really amazing. I'm so thankful for it. It is really encouraging, but it does have a kind of a double-edged sword where there was a few months ago I was really like focusing way too much on the numbers. I think
Yeah.
having this kind of like new burst of your quote unquote fame really made me like feel awesome, but at the same time I was saying, how can I get more views? What kind of
Yeah.
videos can I make that will give me more views? And as we've said, that is really the wrong thing to focus on. You've got to focus on doing what you like and not what's going to give you the most fame, the most views, because that thing is really fleeting.
Yeah.
You get all those views, you get all those comments and stuff, but then it goes, and it's really the journey making those videos that lasts. So yeah, you,
Totally.
you have to enjoy what you're doing and not focus too much on the numbers. That's really a
You really
struggle.
can't. And I think we can say that all we want, but everybody's going to when they
I
actually
know.
start. But like I feel the same way. Like so there's like an insecurity in me, right? Like when if someone leapfrog past me in subscribers, my brain, the first thing is like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah,
Like that's like my brain. And then I stop for a second and I'm just like, they're doing something fantastic. That's awesome. I'm excited for them. And it's happened a couple times now, and I'm kind of training my brain to like, think of it differently. But there's always that insecurity that comes from this kind of stuff. And if you're focusing on the numbers and someone beats you in numbers, even though you grew in subscribers that day or you grew in views that day,
oh
you still
yeah,
feel bad. And
yeah.
like,
No,
it doesn't
yeah,
make sense, right? Because you're still growing. So why would you make yourself feel bad comparing yourself to somebody else that's
completely.
on a different, path than you?
Of course, we're all really running our own race, but I'm so guilty with that too. I very often and even now, comparing my channel subscribers to other channel
Yeah.
subscribers, like I do that very often. It's kind of almost like a habit now. Seeing, oh, this guy's released a new video. I wonder how many views he's got compared to
Yeah,
my
yeah.
video that I launched. Just like a habit. And the problem, another problem with the sort of subscriber and view, focusing on that, is that it'll never be enough. Like I remember,
Yeah.
if you told me a year ago that I would have like 90,000 subscribers, I would have been like, "This is so crazy! This is amazing!" But now that I've got that amount, I already feel like 100K, I already 200K,
Yeah.
and I know that when I do reach 200K, I'm going to probably want 500K. So it never really stops, and that's bad. It's just no point on focusing on that, even though we do focus on it. Sadly,
Yeah. You got to
it's
ground
part of the
yourself. You got to like really like stop. Because I realized that because for a while my subscriber count was like directly tied to like my mood that day. Like
yeah.
I obsessed over it that much at a certain point. And
Oh
I
yeah,
remember
completely. I
the
think
first day it went down, man. I was just like, oh, this is not
yeah,
good.
completely. No, it's I've had a few days where I've completely obsessed over numbers, poring over my analytics and seeing like, oh, you see, this period was so much better than this one.
Yeah.
Why is that? Yeah, it's just for example, my most popular videos on my channel are pixel arts. I think that's my most popular video with 300,000 views, which for me is like really huge. And so common sense would tell me to make more pixel art
Right.
videos, but I don't really enjoy making pixel arts. That if you play my games, you'll see that none of them are in pixel arts because first of all, I'm not really good at it, and second of all, I enjoy the process more, creating your more traditional style art, your cartoony art and that. But yeah, if I did focus on the views and numbers, pixel art videos, but for that, I said to myself, no, I'm going to focus on just doing what I like doing. That's the key.
That's a hard creative decision to make. Like
It is
it's not easy to go away from the views, away from what is essentially money, right? Like
it
it's
is yeah,
views
sure.
equal money on YouTube. Uh Go away from that and do the thing that you want to do the thing that you love to do. That's not easy. Like
Oh no.
what made you want to make that decision?
Well, I just realized that again, the views ultimately didn't make me happy because again, I would get a certain amount, and then I would already want more and more. So I said to myself, I'm not to focus on that because it isn't making me happy. I need to focus on what does make me happy, and that's creating cool games, creating art, making videos that I enjoy making. That stuff did make me happy. So yeah, it's really about that, about what I enjoy doing, um, and realizing that views isn't everything, and that it's in the long run it's not going to make me happy. For example, I did like kind of the deathbed experiments and imagining myself really old and kind of dying and saying to myself, would I really think back on all the views I got and all the
Yeah.
likes I got? I probably wouldn't. I don't think anybody would.
Yeah,
So
you're not
yeah.
gonna be like, I should have gotten more views.
Yeah, I should have gotten a few. I should have made those pixel art videos. Damn.
No, I
No.
have a tattoo on my left arm that says "Live, Love, Matter," and
Yeah,
I use it to like bring myself back when I start obsessing over dumb things.
of
And
course.
views are one of those things. Like, and for game developers out there, like it it's not just the views, it's not the subscribers on YouTube, but it's also like how many people play your game, like how many, what people
Yeah.
say about it, all that stuff. The more of this you obsess over, and the more of it you obsess over, the less time you can spend actually creating, and the more energy you put into caring what the most optimal route is, or
Oh yeah,
what the
that is
best thing
so
to do
true.
is, the less you're doing it.
Of course. Yeah, sometimes I feel like in a day I spend more time looking at stats and
Yeah,
refreshing my Twitter and YouTube pages than actually creating stuff, and that's terrible. But yeah, it really happens, and quite often, more often than is necessary, of course.
yeah,
Like at one point, I told myself, okay, I'm going to look at my comments, my Discord, my Twitter, YouTube once in the morning and once at night, and that's all. And that's quite cool. But I didn't stick to that. It's like I am completely addicted to numbers now and views. And even today, I'm saying all this, which feels good, but I am still really hooked to these numbers and to this growth.
yeah. Me too.
Um, it's something. Yeah, it's hard to step away from,
Me too.
and I can only imagine people who are even more famous or even more subscribers. I wonder if they're even, and if that hurts their creativity, because I know it
Right.
does hurt my creativity in some ways. YouTube, though it's amazing, sometimes I wonder if it's like harming my creativity, harming the time I have to make games, because I'm spending a huge amount of time making videos and stuff, and not as much making games. And that's my dream. I really want to release a great game on Steam or on itch.io, and have loads of players that love it. But I'm not spending that much time on it sometimes, I feel, but making more videos.
But I mean, you're getting that other half of the equation, the tons of players that love it. That's what you're building.
That's what I'm building. And
right?
Also recently, yeah, sure. But recently also I've found a really great way to merge the two together, and that's by making devlog videos.
Yeah.
So, I make the game during the week, I really focus on that. And then during the weekend, I make a devlog video, and there I talk about how I made the game, why, like the progress I made this past week, my struggles, all that stuff. So it's a great combo. It's really, I'm really happy with what I'm doing right now. It's tons of fun, and it's a great way to make games and upkeep my channel and keep growing my audience.
What's interesting to me is that, like, I see so many devlogs, I see blogs, I see Reddit posts, and I see all of these people get ignored. Like, nobody cares about their devlog, nobody cares about their game. Their post gets 0 upvotes on Reddit, their blog gets 0 views. You know what I mean? And that's rough. But you, in a year and a half, have managed to make thousands of people care about everything that you do every week in a game.
It is cool. Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
that's that's quite an accomplishment. That's huge.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
you get more views on one devlog video than most indie games get in their entire lifetime.
That is quite awesome. Yeah, right? It's true.
So I think the takeaway is one, whatever you think will or will not work, you're incorrect, because there's always a way to make it work. Right? You just got to think outside the box. Like, you and I have both built communities around game dev, and even though developers aren't necessarily our target market, they're part of our total market. They're part of our audience, and the audience doesn't really care what you're making. Like, does some stuff sell better? Sure. But at the end of the day, they're there for you and your creations. And a lot of people don't understand that if they don't build an audience, it's going to be really hard to get people to care. Whereas audiences by default kind of care about what you're doing.
Definitely. Unless your game is absolutely incredible, then there's 99% of the chance that you're going to get hardly anybody playing your game. So it's just so important to build up an audience. And again, that's why I started my YouTube channel, is to have players play my games. But yeah, for those who are doing devlogs and getting absolutely no views and stuff, it's really tough. The only way is to I don't know yet, because by doing devlogs, they are kind of trying to get an audience, really.
Right. But I think the problem with it, though, is because remember, your path is you started helping people, you started adding value to people's lives, right? And that made people care about you. And so when you post something, they care what you have to say. A lot of people, they start with these devlogs, or they start with the Kickstarter or their Patreons, and like nobody even knows why would some random person that posts their Patreon on Reddit, why would I click that link and give you money?
Of course.
Like, what have you made? How have you added value to my life? Like, what, you know what I mean?
That's kind of like the philosophy of, you give, and then you ask for, and then people are going to be so, give back to you once you've proved to them that you've given them something.
Yeah, I look at the world as like a bank account, right? Like, the more that I add into that bank account, the more I feel like I'm doing good for the world. And I will never ask for as much as I put in, ever. Because I'm always going to try and keep a positive balance in that bank account, right?
Yeah, and people are going to see that, and I think that they're going to actually, if you give them like a lot, and if you're really genuine, people are going to be so willing to help you out. So, I mean, I guess you saw that with Philophobia. You got all these great supporters that bought your game and really even bought the collector's edition at $60, right?
Which blew my mind, by the way. The fact that they would pay more than a AAA game just to have a collector's edition of this thing that I was even super insecure about. And they did that because they enjoyed the things that I created. And it probably had nothing to do with the game, to be honest. Just had to do with the audience.
It's their way of saying thank you to you, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the content you've given them and all the motivation and inspiration and stuff. So yeah, basically, it's really important to give and not only to ask. It's true that when you're and nobody knows about you, and there's so many games out there, it's going to be quite hard unless your game is amazing to start building up that audience.
Right.
So yeah, tutorials are a pretty good way, really, of getting an audience, of gathering a small, amount of core followers.
Or just figure out how you want to add value to the world, right? Don't just
Yeah, or
jump out there
anything.
and try and take. Don't That shouldn't be your
Sure.
first thing. Try and give first.
Yeah, exactly, man.
I think that is a perfect note to end this
I
chat on.
think I think that is beautiful. Yeah, let's end on that.
So, if people are interested in seeing your channel, where can they go? Where can they hang out with you and all that?
Oh well, there's my obviously it's on my YouTube. As we've said, it's filled with tutorials on Unity, programming, game art, and stuff. And I also make loads of devlog videos. But if you want to, ask me questions or just chat with me, I have a Discord server. It's the BlackThornProd Discord server. I've got a link to it on all of my videos, so you can't miss it.
I'll link
And
it
so
below
yeah,
too.
yeah. Oh, thank you, man. And so definitely come and say hi. I questions, comments. It's a real pleasure getting to meet new developers. And yeah, that's about it.
All right, dude. I really appreciate what you're doing for the dev community, and I hope you'll
Yeah, I appreciate what
keep
you
at
do,
it.
man. It's super that we've finally got to talk. It was a real pleasure, and I hope we can do this more often.
Totally. I'm down. All right. See you.
Okay, cheers.